Hey friends, welcome back. I am Jason, and today we're discussing gear that you might want to keep in your vehicle to keep yourself and your family safe if you should be stranded somewhere. There's a lot of options out there, but let's just go through a few of the things that I might keep in my truck, and then one new option that I think is pretty cool. Not sold on it completely yet, but we're going to find out today whether it's something that you might want to invest in. Before we get started, friends, make sure you hit that thumbs up for me. I'd really be grateful for that. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let's get back to the show. So I've got an array of warming devices here, my friends. Everything from a waterproof blanket, a tarp, a really lightweight, inexpensive fleece sleeping bag, a wool blanket, and then a pretty expensive down-filled sleeping bag right there. Now let's go through the pros and cons of each, and let's decide which one's going to be best for our family. Now the first one, in no particular order here, the first one on my list is going to be a down sleeping bag. It doesn't have to be down, like authentic down. It could be a synthetic down of sorts, and that's fine. I have been a really big fan. I've been using the Big Agnes sleeping bags for a long time. And if we're talking about items that we want to keep in our vehicle in order to keep us warm in colder temperatures, so we have a breakdown or getting caught in a snowdrift or whatever, depending on where you live, that's a real thing that you might be concerned with. So what would we want to focus on? Down is fantastic because nothing is warmer. Nothing insulates better. Nothing compacts down tighter and smaller. There's some downsides. One, if you do get it wet, it stays wet for a long time and it's really difficult to dry them out. This down that's in the Big Agnes bag is treated with some sort of scientific fabric treatment, something or other, that keeps the down from absorbing the water, which is pretty cool. It makes it hydrophobic, if you will. How's that for a big scientific word right there? But the problem with down sleeping bags is that if you store them crammed in a jam bag, crammed inside of a compression sack, which takes up a really, really small amount of space in your vehicle, if you have a smaller vehicle, that might be a concern. If you do that, it loses some of its R value. It loses some of its insulative properties because you've kept it squished up for so long. And without the loft, without the poofiness, it doesn't really do you much good. So for that reason, down is not the best option if you're going to be keeping it stored tightly compressed in your vehicle for long periods of time. You do have to they generally recommend that you keep them stored hung up like this so they can just stay poofy and keep you warmer. So there's some downsides to down, and it's very expensive. A down sleeping bag, a good quality down sleeping bag is going to cost you a lot of money, and not everybody has the budget for that. So let's move on to a more budget-friendly option. Friends, random ADHD thought of the day. If you could fly through the air like a bird, or swim in the ocean and breathe underwater like a fish, which would you prefer? Which would you do if you had that superpower? Man, being able to fly would be pretty cool. I think that's where I'm leaning. Leave that in the comment section. Let me know. All right, moving on. Now that we're back on track. Focused, guys. I'm staying focused. Next on my list is a wool blanket. And in my vehicles, I have a wool blanket. In my wife's car and in my truck, I always have at least one wool blanket. I've been a fan of wool blankets for a long time. They insulate even when they're wet. They're a little bit heavy. That's the downside to them. They're a little bit heavy. And if you're like my whiny kids, they're itchy. They're itchy. Boo-hoo-hoo. Shut up, kid. You're welcome for not getting hypothermia. So I do like wool blankets because of their insulative power. There's nothing warmer than a wool blanket when it's nasty and wet and cold. A wool blanket does a really, really good job of keeping you warm. They're quite durable. They last a long time. I mean, there's some surplus wool blankets out there that have been around for 50, 60 plus years, and they're still going strong. So they don't smell. You could keep them in a vehicle for a long time. It doesn't matter. They're not going to get like stanky and mildewy and stuff like that because of their just natural abilities to subdue that kind of stuff. So that is really cool. I do like a wool blanket. Again, they're a little bit bulky. They're a little bit heavy. You can't compress it down. Like, that's as small as it's ever going to get. You know, this is probably like a twin size blanket. I'll show you. That's what we're dealing with. I think this is probably like a twin size. I don't know. Something like that. Your standard surplus type blanket size right there. So it does take up some space, and if you don't have room, if space is limited in your vehicle, this may or may not be an option for you. But I do think it is a good option, just the standard old wool blanket. I'm going to try to put links to most, if not all, of the items in this video in the description and in the comment section of this video. So if you want to find one, go ahead and click on that link and it'll take you right to it. I put my wool poncho on my daughter yesterday. We were at soccer practice and it was super windy and it was really cold, and me and my daughter were watching the younger two play. And she was cold, so I put that wool poncho on her, and you know, she's typically the one that complains about it being itchy. But she was not complaining on that day. She was definitely grateful to have that wool poncho over her, protecting her from the wind and the misty rain that was happening. So there's that. All right, moving on down the list, we've got just a cheap, inexpensive cocoon. Actually, I don't know how much these are. This was a gift from a friend, but I don't think they were very expensive. I think they're fairly inexpensive gear. It's a cocoon. It's a fleece sleeping bag. That's all it is. It's just a fleece sleeping bag. Nothing fancy. Right? It's got kind of this sil nylon outer shell right here. Right? Sil nylon outer shell, and then on the inside, it is fleece. Right? You could open this up, and it's just a blanket. It unzips all the way. You can open this up and it is just a great big blanket, about a twin size blanket, give or take, that you could wrap your kids up in the back seat of the truck or something like that if you were broke down somewhere, and it would help keep them warm. They could all be huddled together in one little ball, little cocoon of warmth, which is nice. These are, like I said, not very expensive, and they get the job done. And the cool thing about this is you could use this in conjunction with another sleeping bag. So let's say you had a down-filled sleeping bag, a really nice one, but it was only rated to 30 degrees. And let's say it was going to get down to 10 degrees tonight. You will still freeze your butt off in that 30-degree bag. So adding something like this, you could put the down-filled bag inside of this one, and this gives you a little bit more R value, will get you down to a little bit lower temperatures, which is always a nice feature. So this is a good backup to have, just this fleece, inexpensive sleeping bag right here. So I like these. And another good thing about these fleece sleeping bags is they dry really fast. If you were to get them wet, you could hang it up on a clothesline or whatever, you know, over the hood of your truck. I've done that before. And they dry out in the sunshine really, really fast. If there's even a little bit of breeze and a little bit of sun, it doesn't take long at all, and you're back in business and ready to stuff them back in the stuff sack here. And while they don't compress down that small, that's about as small as you're ever going to get it, it doesn't matter. You can leave it jammed in here for years, and it doesn't lose any of its insulating value, which is nice. Not that it has that much insulating value to start with. You're not going to want to sleep out with just this in 30-degree weather. You'll be pretty cold unless you've got a lot of layers on underneath. So this, my friends, is just a great big tarp. This is a 10 by 10, I believe, maybe 9 by 9 tarp. I can't quite remember the size of this one, but this is a Big Agnes product as well. And this is a great tarp. The only thing I don't like about it is the color, bright orange. Not really into that. But anyway, it is a great tarp. It is waterproof. It will keep you dry. You could wrap your family up in it. If you were exposed to the elements, say you weren't able to stay in your vehicle, you could wrap your family up with this big giant tarp and keep everybody safe. You could pitch it like a tent, an A-frame type structure, lean-to, whatever. Lots of options with a great big tarp like this one with the guy lines already attached to it. Lots of options for something like this, and it's fantastic, but it doesn't insulate. It's just going to be able to keep the wind and rain off you, perhaps, and that's pretty much it. The sun, maybe if you're out in the desert somewhere and you need some shade, this would work for that as well. And it doesn't take up a lot of space, and like I said, it's huge. I think it's 10 by 10. It's really, really big. You could fit a family of 5 underneath a 10 by 10 shelter. Of course, it's a little bit cramped. It's not the Marriott, but it will get the job done in a pinch. So for that reason, I do like the big tarps. Now there's a lot of options out there, guys, but this is just a few of the options, and this is the final one that we're going to talk about today. And this one comes from Arcturus. See that? Can you read that? Arcturus. You know, they sell ponchos and camouflage gear and stuff like that on the internet, and I ordered some products from Arcturus, and I spent over a certain amount, so they sent me this for free. So I don't owe them anything. They didn't ask me to do a review on this or anything like that. I just thought it was an interesting product, and I thought, hey, that's worth talking about. And this, my friends, is a waterproof blanket, and I think that's kind of cool because it has kind of the same perks as this big tarp here, and in addition to that, it will insulate like a blanket, which I think is kind of cool. So I haven't tried it out yet. We're just gonna open this thing up kind of for the first time, and we're gonna see what it's all about. So I don't know the exact size of this big blanket here, but let's say it's, you know, 7-ish feet, 7 by 7, something like that. Maybe slightly bigger than that. And it's got this really rugged, tough kind of Cordura outer shell, which they say is waterproof, but we're gonna test that here in a second. And then the inside is a softer, like sil nylon, and it's got insulation. There's some thickness to it, some down, some poofiness in there. A synthetic fill, I'm sure, but it is pretty dang warm. And this would definitely block the wind, and if it's waterproof like they say, it would definitely block the rain as well. And this would be pretty nice. This is big enough to fit over the entire fam in the back of the truck for sure. And I think that's pretty cool. It's got tie outs right here, so you could pitch this up like a tarp, use it like a tarp. I think it's even got a pocket in this corner. I'm not sure what I would do with that, but you know, you could keep things in there. If you were picnicking and wanted to put your keys in it or something, that's cool. You could lay this out on the wet ground like that and have a nice dry spot to relax on, have yourself a little picnic, even if it wasn't an emergency type situation. So it is a bit bulky and not ultra light. I mean, I probably wouldn't want to go backpacking with this at all, but keeping it in your vehicle, I don't think that is that bad of an idea. You know, it doesn't pack down super small. You might be able to compress it in a compression sack or something like that and get it a little bit smaller, but it is going to take up some real estate. So let's just see if it's waterproof. Let's spray it. So the water just kind of fell off. That's it. just kind of rolled off of it. So I would say, you know, initial test, success. It is pretty waterproof. Maybe not 100% waterproof forever, you know, if you were to submerge it, but it's significantly water resistant, I would say. The water just beat it up and kind of fell off of it. Now, I don't have any on hand, but I have a half dozen or so in my wife's vehicle because we're limited on space in her vehicle. So I have a half dozen emergency Mylar blankets. The little bit tougher ones that are stretchy, they're a little bit harder to tear, and they seem to work quite well, especially if you've got nothing else. If you're really limited on space, I mean, you could put one in a pocket. They take no room at all. So friends, I'd love to hear what you think about this in the comment section. Let me know which one of these you'd prefer to have for you and your family in your vehicle. Now, I know some of these are not ultra packable and you're not going to be backpacking with them, but we're talking specifically about keeping in your vehicle. So let me know what your preference would be. A few announcements, make sure I don't miss anything. Fit on 3, my fitness-based YouTube channel is going strong. I'm posting workouts, recommendation workouts 3 times a week in short form. So if you're interested in being physically fit for whatever life throws at you, being ready physically for anything and everything, if that's you, make sure you subscribe to Fit on 3. I'd be really grateful for that. Our wool ponchos are going to be available pretty soon, so if you want one, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and hit the notifications bell, so when I release them, I'm going to be posting a quick video letting everybody know that they're there, and you want to miss out, because if you're late, you're probably going to miss out. At least you're going to have to wait until the next batch is ready to roll. So there's that. What else, friends? I think that's just about it. I do really appreciate you watching. Subscribe, thumbs up, all the things. Until next time, what's the worst that could happen? Let's just go on 3.